Okay, this is a message in love for my executive directors and CEOs. You know who you are. Some of us have certain things that we are really passionate about. Like, for example, if you came up as a product guy, you might be all about product or technology. If you came in as a development and sales or donor development, as a CEO now, you might be all about the donor development process. If you came from marketing or from finance or from science or whatever, you have a bent as an individual based on your career path and what you've learned. Now, that means that as an organizational leader, there's going to be certain things in the organization you like to grab and gravitate to as that's my thing. I've worked for CEOs and with CEOs that are strong finance people. So they've got a really tight financial ship. And when it comes to the controller, the bookkeeper, the accountant, the finance, the CFO, man, they got it dialed in. I've worked with other folks that come out of more product or science, and they're really good at the technology or the process that the thing that they're doing. They're all about that. But man, when it comes to finance, that's somebody else's problem, right? But here's the thing, that there's 5 things as a CEO you cannot delegate or outsource that you must master and own wholeheartedly in the organization, non-negotiable. And here's what they are. Number 1, as the CEO, you must own vision, and not just the vision, the dream, but the strategy of how we're going to get there. Now, if you're not strong in this area, that's fine. Work with a coach, read a book, get some training. But at the end of the day, the CEO cannot outsource vision and strategy. That is not something you can delegate to the board or to a team member. That has got to be you, and it's got to come from you. And here's a tip. If you're a CEO and you show up at a board meeting and your vision's not clear or you don't have a believable strategic plan, guess what's going to happen? If you don't give the board a plan, they're going to give you a plan. And if they give you a plan, you might not like it. So my advice to you is to show up at the next board meeting or at the strategic board meetings. When the strategy planning sessions happen, even if it happens with your team offsite, just bring it together and give the board a plan to react to. That way they're modifying your plan, not just creating something out of thin air that you're not going to own, right? That's not good. So as a CEO, if you're weak on vision strategy, then work with a coach and somebody that can help bring this out and help you nail it. It's something that you can grow into and get better at. The second thing as a CEO you cannot outsource is culture. Every organization has a culture. It's just whether it's intentional or not. If you're not being intentional with the culture, then whatever's happening around you is just happening happenstance, but that becomes your culture. So the CEO cannot delegate or outsource the culture. That is not the CEO's problem. That is not lower level management. That is not the people themselves. The CEO sets the vision, establishes the culture. The third thing the CEO cannot outsource, is part of your primary responsibility, is developing your senior leadership team. Now, fortunately, leadership is a skill that you can grow in and learn. It is something that is developed. None of us are born amazing leaders. We might have traits that make us better than others in certain areas. At the end of the day, though, it is a learned skill. And as the CEO, you have no choice, my friend, but to become the person that develops up your senior leadership team. All right? So if all you do is solve people's problems all the time when they show up at your office and play whack-a-mole all day, you're going to be exhausted and you're going to wonder, like, where's my senior leadership and why aren't they any good at this? And that's because the culture that you've created is that you're the problem solver and you haven't empowered your team and developed up your team to be that layer of getting things done. And you'll never grow beyond your own capability and what you can knock out in a day or a week or a month. So amplify your success, develop your senior leadership, devote your time to them, and be a multiplication on your efforts as a leader. The last thing that you can't outsource, and this is a growth edge for a lot of us, and that is capital allocation. And that's just a fancy way of saying how money is brought in, how money is spent, and where you find sources of revenue, grants, investment, whatever. The CEO cannot outsource that. You can have consultants and advisors help you. You can have a coach talk you through it. You can have team members support you. You can have a CFO that's better at numbers than you. But at the end of the day, you cannot have the person at the helm, the leader, be responsible for vision and strategy, culture, developing the leadership, and not own capital allocation. The buck stops with you, quite literally. I'm James of the Growth Executive. Stop by our website, join our next workshop. I'd be curious when we talk if there's any areas in here you feel maybe a little bit weaker on and that we can coach you up into. Chances are you didn't come on this God's green earth good at all of them. There's always a growth edge, and that's okay. The first step of the process is to identify that you've got to own it and then own the process to get better at it. I'm James, the Growth Executive. I look forward to seeing you in our workshop. And remember, you don't have to go at this alone. Have a fantastic day.